Hello everyone, very good morning to all the students. Let's begin today's lecture of digital communication. So today I have planned to discuss topics related to sampling, few points about modulation, information about the lab experiments, etc. Is my voice properly audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what I have done is uh, till second lecture we have discussed, we have brushed up about modulation. We have also seen amplitude modulation, and I shared one code with you people, Scilab code, and not shared. I mean, I showcased you. I'll share that file also, but you can get that code from the video recording also. So that should not stop you from simulating code for amplitude modulated wave generation using Scilab. So before we start, I just since out of 3 interaction sessions in a week, one is for practical, right? So it will be a mix, right? So though I have shared the code in the second lecture, but consider this as a experiment. The first experiment will be to study the AM generation, right? The list of experiments and the entire lab curriculum I have shared on the Teams platform yesterday. You can have a look at it. So once again. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? So your first experiment will be to study the DSB double sideband amplitude modulated signal generation. Okay. In the upcoming lectures, I'll also share the code for developing filters for that purpose, so that you can get rid of one sideband and you get a SSB single sideband, right? So as of now, experiment number 1 will be like this. Now, what is expected from all of you? You have to prepare a PDF file. Okay. Now that PDF file will be the scan of your handwritten lab experiments. Okay. Remember, handwritten should be there. So experiment number 1, you have to write in your own handwriting the experiment number 1 as per this following format, right? So title, as I already shared, it is DSB AM signal generation. Okay. Then you are supposed to write the tools or apparatus which you have used. So you will write Scilab for that purpose. Then you have to define the methodology. You have to define it into introduction. Okay, so introduction part, or you can say theory part, theoretical part, you can anyways write. In introduction, you will write about modulation, AM, etc., advantages, all those things you will list, and then observations, and in between you have block diagram, etc. Okay. In observations, we have seen yesterday modulation index EM by EC. So what you will do in the code itself, you will change the values of EM and EC, and then you will observe the graph. From the graph, which we have seen yesterday, you will find out the values of M for different combinations of EM and EC. Okay. And in that process, you will generate at least minimum 4 graphs with different values of M. So M is starting from say 0.1 till 1, and you can take one value for over modulation, also. Are we clear in this? Okay, and then you have conclusion at the end. Any doubt in this? Okay, I believe there is no confusion. This PDF file you have to name as per following rule. For example, your roll number is 19 BIT 220. Okay, so you will submit this PDF like experiment 1 underscore and then your roll number. Okay, entire roll number you will do like this. This where you have to upload. Today I will share a assignment link. Remember, assignment link, that will be lab assignment link. That assignment is nothing but your experiment number 1, and it has to be neatly prepared on a piece of paper. Okay, and then submit. The deadline for this is 7 days starting from today. So you start preparing this. I'll share this code also. I'll show you that code also. Anyhow, that code is there in the video file also. You can have a look at it. Any confusion or any doubt regarding this?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so today is 5th. So by 12th of August, 3 p.m. you should submit your lab assignment number 1. Okay, no excuses after this deadline. So to be safer side, just upload it well before the deadline. I will never entertain late submissions with regards to lab assignment at least. Okay, so please be clear about it. Right. So let us go to our presentation. Okay, I hope the presentation is again visible. In case if there is some delay, please inform me.
Yes, sir.
Delay is there?
No, sir. No delay.
Okay, okay. Thank you for the response. So today we'll start a very important concept about analog and digital messages. So modulation part, whatever we have discussed, though we have already covered it in SEM3 course, I have shared the PDF in your Teams folder. You can have a look at it, you can revise it. But now I think we kickstart our moving towards digital communication concepts. Okay, but whatever doubts, queries you will have, I am always open to listen to it and clarify it. Okay, so please feel free to contact me, and my email ID definitely might be with you. Remember, while if you send any email, so there are 2 email IDs. One is pawan.sharma@sot.pdpu.ac.in and another is pawan.sharma. That do not send any email to that pawan.sharma. Okay, that is some other faculty. Only difference is of 1A. My name is PAA. That please special care you take. Otherwise, I will not receive your emails, and that will be difficult situation. So pawan.sharma, always remember to send. No, don't send on pawan.sharma. So when you look at analog and digital forms of information signals, we call it as message. How do you define digital message? Digital message you define as some ordered combination of finite symbols or code words. So there is some finite number of available symbols or representations. We call it as code words, which only you can use to represent any information. There cannot be any value. You can just simply take and represent your information signal quantity. For example, English language, if you take, or for that matters any language, there are fixed number of letters, numbers, representations, etc. Right? So it is a finite set of symbols, right? So that is a digital representation. Human speech is also digital message. Remember, this is a catchy question. Okay, human speech. Human speech means something meaningful is being said. Now that something meaningful is being said on the basis of the language, right? There are some rules of language. You use some words, combination of words form sentences. Okay, so there is meaning into it. So words are finite in number. The combination is also finite in number. So whatever information is conveyed by a human speech, that you can consider it as a digital message. But remember, raw audio signal or voice signal without referring to its information content is continuous in nature. Okay, so there it is not digital, but when information is extracted from such signals, it is digital because everything is from a finite set of symbols or representation. So this is catchy. Morse code is very common example where you use zeros and ones to represent the information, and we call them as dash and dot. So in this Morse code, you have two symbols, dash and dot. If you have M symbols to represent M symbols you are using in a message, you call them as M-array message. M-array. It can be 4, it can be 8, depending on. So as our course will progress, this M will increase. For example, in QPSK, when we will see different type of symbols, different number of symbols are available to represent the message or information. Okay, so we'll cover up this. On the other hand, analog message, obviously very intuitive, where you have values, the data value, it is varying over a continuous range. In that range, any value can be picked up, any value can be considered. That is not the case with your digital messages. Okay, and they are also defined for continuous range of time. So for any instant of time, the value can take any quantity in a given range. For example, the temperature, pressure, etc. All these values, they are actually continuous range, and especially the time series data, those are continuous in nature. A piece of music. So music is, like I said, a raw audio signal where nothing is spoken. You consider it as from a audio file rather than some message file, then that is an analog form of message. I hope you understand a particular speech waveform. Like if you some speech is there and you extract a part of it where only you are analyzing the frequency spectrum or other characteristics of that particular waveform, it is considered as analog message. So since it is catchy, I will definitely ask you maybe trying to test your understanding. So question you have to read carefully. What context I am asking you about whether a signal is analog or digital. Are we good? Are we good so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so there are definitely the advantages of digital communication: high performance, security, adaptability, etc. All these are well-known, advantages of any digital system, be it digital communication system. So we need conversion process. So in order to transmit our analog message signals, for example, voice, using digital communication systems, we need to convert our signal into digital form. So this we are referring as analog to digital conversion. I hope you have studied the concepts of ADC in earlier semesters. Here we will refer to ADC as and when required as per our digital communication requirements. Okay, this is also known as digital pulse modulation with regards to our digital communication. So there are two important methods of analog to digital conversion. One is your pulse coded modulation and another is your delta modulation. There is another which is known as ADM, adaptive delta modulation. We will cover that in detail in upcoming sessions. But today we will be focusing on PCM and delta modulation. And specifically PCM will be focusing on. Okay, so pulse coded modulation process involves these three steps: sampling, quantization, and encoding. So let us ask from you people, who all are there? Chirag.
Yes, sir.
Chirag, can you tell us what is sampling?
Sir, when you from analog to digital, when you when you convert and you break the signal into like some parts, like you cannot for analog signal to store, you'll need an infinite storage, and you cannot have an infinite storage. So you break the signal in small parts, like in some frequency, like in this from this to this length, you'll have these many parts for that.
Okay, so I the little disagree with Chirag, though majority portion he tried to convey correctly. I'll tell you why there is little disagreement. Okay, let me ask Dwarkesh. Mr. Dwarkesh, can you listen?
Hello, sir.
Dwarkesh.
Yes,
So,
sir.
would you like to add something to what Chirag has just spoken about sampling?
Yes, sir. Means like the beginning of something. It's like survey or something.
Survey? No, no. In our signal system context, if you can tell something.
Yeah, I mean, sir. Basics of all signals, like what will be means which signal it is.
Mm.
Sir, I'd like to add that
Please.
continuous to discrete time signal.
Chirag, yes, please tell.
Sir, basically conversion of continuous time signal to discrete time signal.
Is sampling?
Yeah, we use sampling for conversion of continuous time signal to discrete time signals.
Okay. Okay. Let us go back to presentation. Thank you for responding, Dwarkesh and Chirag. I want participation from all students whenever their name are being called like this. Okay, never be absent. So I'm happy both are there. So sampling, as rightly said, when you want to convert analog to digital signal, sampling is an important process. You cannot skip it. So sampling, it converts your continuous time signal into discrete time signal. Remember, never call a digital signal, because only with sampling step the signal is not digital in nature. It is only a discrete in time which sampling makes. So never fall into that trap of saying that once we sample our analog signal, we get digital signal. No, we do not get digital signal. Definitely we are moving towards getting digital signal, but all we get is a discrete time signal, discrete time domain signal. Okay, so sampling is that process. Quantization, can somebody tell about quantization?
So quantization means even the continuous time signals for every different time, there can be any, like any number, the decimal digit, it could be up to 100th digit. So we quantize, like if it's near to digit 1, we'll take digit 1 instead of 0.99.
Good.
If it's something
Okay.
like
Who is it?
Chirag sir.
Okay. So quantization, like sampling, was conversion of continuous time to discrete time. Quantization, which is followed after sampling, it is the conversion of continuous valued amplitude of signal into discrete valued signal. So rightly said, you cannot have all the values for the signal, only specific values or specific levels of the signal, the value which can be attained. Okay, so that is quantization. And once you have performed quantization, means the signal after the stage of quantization is discrete in both ways. It is discrete in time as well as discrete in amplitude. So discrete in time was done by sampling, and discrete in amplitude was done by quantization, and all is remaining is your encoding. Encoding is the representation of that particular value, that particular discrete level, into a particular code word, digital code word, that is encoding. So we will try to look up to these PCM steps generation into detail. Okay, so you can see pulse code modulation. You have your continuous time domain signal MT, then you sample, quantize and encode, and you get a digital representation. Okay. So yes, I have just written all these things. So sampling is the process. Quantization is also representing sample values by finite set of levels, and encoding, we are designating each quantized level with a code. Okay. So when sampling comes, there are certain rules, regulations with regards to sampling. I hope you might have studied this sampling theorem. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So why sampling theorem comes into picture? For that you need to understand, remember something we call as band limited signal. Band limited signal, it is a signal for which the Fourier transform is 0 above a certain frequency. Now, what is Fourier transform? Let us ask other students. Jay Hirani. Just
Sorry, sir, no idea about it.
okay, but you remember you have studied somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Jay Patel.
Yes, sir.
Jay, can you tell what is Fourier transform?
Yes, sir. In which the function which is depending on space or time is converted into a spatial or a frequency based.
Frequency based. Okay, something when you are analyzing into frequency domain. So Fourier transform is a technique to do that. Okay, so my next question will be from Meet Thakkar. It seems he's not there. Prachi, engineer. Okay. Pushti Yadav.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell the difference between Fourier series and Fourier transform?
Mm, Fourier series represents periodic function
Yes. Okay. Good. And
and
Fourier transform?
non-periodic function.
Aperiodic functions. Okay. Good. So you have Fourier transform. It is nothing but an extension of Fourier series, because you cannot use Fourier series for aperiodic signals. Okay, so you use Fourier transform. You derive Fourier transform actually from Fourier series only by applying some conditions. Okay, so any uh, aperiodic signal can have an example of a finite duration signal. Okay, a signal came and it just stopped. There is no periodicity, right? So you use Fourier transform to analyze the frequency domain characteristics of that particular signal. Okay, so when you say that any band limited signal has Fourier transform 0 above a particular frequency omega m, what do you mean? You mean that the maximum frequency which component which that particular signal contains is omega m. Omega m means 2 pi fm, or so we can say fm or omega m. Okay, that is the band limited signal. So theorem, this sampling theorem is for the band limited signal. And what does it states? It states that in order to take samples from a signal where the maximum frequency component is fm, you need to sample it at the rate greater than or equal to twice of fm. If you have a signal with maximum frequency component 4 kilohertz, please do not sample at 2 kilohertz or 5 kilohertz. You should not do that. Rather, you should sample that signal with at least 8 kilohertz of frequency or more than that. That is the sampling theorem. Then only you would be able to reconstruct the original signal which you have sampled in that case. If you do not sample, if you undersample it, you do not follow the sampling theorem, this rule, you will not be able to recreate the original signal. Yet there will be loss of data. So this minimum sampling rate twice fm samples per second is called Nyquist rate, and the reverse of this 1/2 fm is known as Nyquist interval. Okay, are we good so far?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for giving responses, and I feel good when I get responses. All should proactively participate. So there is a concept of aliasing. Have you ever heard of aliasing? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Please tell.
So when the sampling rate is not adequate, then
Right.
it, it merges with the other frequencies.
Okay. So when the sampling rate is not adequate, you may have a problem of aliasing. You can mute yourself, Chirag. Thank you. Okay. How it can happen? Just look at with the help of a simple example. So you have two signals, one in blue, high frequency, one in red, which is comparatively lower frequency than this blue signal, right? If you do not follow a Nyquist rate, what will happen? Suppose your samples are taking at this instant of time. Okay, so this instant of time you will capture one level. Okay, let me change this color to green. This is sample. Okay, now the sampling operation, you can see both red and blue signals, they have the same value, right? So it gets captured. Next instant, this here also, if you can see this sample, both the instants you have both the signal, they have the same instant, same value. So if you sample inadequately, in order to get those discrete time signal values, you will lose the information which is falling in between this interval. And what samples you are getting, actually both the values, they are represented by both the signals. So there is a loss of information in this case. You have to sample adequately. If you sample like this, definitely you will not miss the shape of this signal. And in that process, you will get the samples of this signal also. No issues in that. So aliasing occurs because you do not sample adequately. And if you look at the samples which you collect after improper sampling rates, okay, forget about these background signals. If only these samples are shown to you, okay, like this, and you are asked what shape this signal could be of, definitely you will draw like this. This is the shape of the signal. Whereas it was not the case. One of the signal was like this. So both these signals, they are getting represented by the same sampling sequence. So this is a aliasing problem, aliasis of the signals, and this has to be avoided. I hope the concept of aliasing is clear to everyone. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we have seen sampling, what is the theorem, sampling theorem, and then we dive more into how to do sampling, and when we sample, what are the different types of sampling. So one is your ideal signal sampling. So can somebody name this signal?
UT.
This is UT.
Unit impulse.
Okay. This is train of unit impulses. Okay, different unit impulses are there, है ना? At different time instants. Unit impulse is only existing for a okay.
This is discrete
Hello.
time UT, we can say.
Yes, I got some network distraction. So this is train of unit impulses. So you use this signal sorry for interruption. There was an important call. I had to take it. So you use this train of unit impulses to sample this continuous valued signal, analog signal. And when you perform this sampling operation, you will get these unit impulses. Now you can see, not unit impulses. Now they are having amplitude equal to whatever signal level was there at that particular time instance, and they are representing the signal shape. So that is the ideal signal sampling. How do we do that? Just a minute. So this continuous time signal MT, if you are using a switch which is getting repeatedly on, switch on and off operation, undergoing switching on and on operation with a particular rate, you would be getting output at this end like this. Okay, so this is the duration for which that switch was on. So the signal was allowed to pass from this end to this end. Okay. Similarly, after certain time, the switch is again made on, then off, then on, then off. So this is what we call as natural sampling. And in natural sampling, you may be seeing that the shape of the curve is we are representing here like this. Okay, it is exactly during this entire duration, the curvature of this signal is exactly the same as how our original signal curvature is there. That is natural sampling. But if you look into more detail, you will find there is another flat top sampling. So there is this circuit. There are issues with circuit. If you use this circuit where you have a sampling switch, there is a discharging switch, you are using some electronic component for that. You have a capacitor which will keep hold the charge against the output. So you will see, instead of having a natural curve, which is difficult, you will have a flat top. During this entire duration, there is a constant level which is being present. Okay, so that is known as flat top sampling. So this is actually pulse amplitude modulation, PAM. Pulse amplitude modulation, the carrier signal consists of periodic train of rectangular pulses. So this is not a rectangular pulse, but in this flat top sampling, these all are actually rectangular pulses. So that is nothing but your PAM, a series of rectangular pulses, and the amplitude of the rectangular pulses vary with the sample value. So as per the value of the continuous time signal, your value of the PAM signal will vary. Okay, and the rate at which these sampling frequency, these samples are coming, calling as carrier frequency, also called as pulse repetition frequency, PRF. Why pulse? Because these are all rectangular pulses having flat tops. Okay. After sampling, we have this important concept of quantization. So as we have seen discussed earlier, quantization is actually discretization in amplitude. So there are two types of quantization, uniform and non-uniform quantization. So assume your signal MT is lying in range some MP2 minus MP. Okay, this signal never crosses this value. Now if you divide this entire range into capital L zones, okay, L intervals. So each interval will have step size or width of, let us represent with delta. So delta will be minus MP to MP, entire range is 2 MP, and you are dividing into L regions, L zones. So each of these steps will be of this much size, del equal to 2 MP upon L. The sample amplitude value is approximated by the midpoint of the interval in which it lies. So this is in interval 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that. And whatever the sample amplitude value you have, you consider the midpoint of that particular interval in which that particular value is lying, and you assign that midpoint value. So like this, okay. So you have input in the range like this, and you have output like this in uniform sizes of the value, midpoint values. We call it as uniform quantizing. So when you assign midpoint, then there is a deviation from the actual value. Suppose your point of sample value was here and the midpoint is here. So there is a difference which will come into the quantized value, and we call it as a fact of quantization noise. Okay, so the difference between the input and output signals of the quantizer results into little error, sometimes maybe a larger error, but it is trouble. It is, we have to take care of this quantization error as much as possible. This is a noise impact. What can be done is, instead of having uniform step sizes, we can have non-uniform quantization with us, like this non-uniform quantization. Here you can see this minus MP to MP. You can see here the step size is very small, intervals are large in number, whereas if you go further away from this axis, you can see the step size is very large, less number of steps are there. So why this is so? Can somebody explain? How does it helps us? Anyone? Okay, so it depends on the characteristics of the signal. Suppose that if your signal is such that majority of times the level, the amplitude value which it takes is lying in this range maximum times, so you devote more number of levels to it. Whereas you know that your signal seldom takes higher values, very rare it takes higher values. So if you assign uniform level step sizes to the entire signal, what will happen? All those levels will be wasted, right? Instead, you assign less number of levels for those those range of values which are rare in occurrence, which are very least happening. So in that process, you are losing your tag of uniform step size, resulting into non-uniform step size, where your step size is larger for rarely occurring values of the signal, smaller for the most occurring value range of the signal. I hope it is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so like I said, in certain signals, if you do some statistical analysis, you will find that smaller amplitudes are more. Rarely any large amplitude signal is there. So we can get rid of uniform quantization scheme and we can have a non-uniform quantizing scheme. Okay, so okay, so we take a pause at this point, and if you guys have any query, any question, please ask. We can spend another minute and then we are good to finish this lecture. Any query, any doubt, please feel free. No queries? Okay, so I hope instructions regarding your lab experiment submission is also clear. Today evening you will get the lab assignment link, and but you can start preparing whenever, as soon as you get the link, you can upload it. Okay, so I'm stopping this session. Thank you everyone.